Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. So today we are looking at something pretty wild. We've got this fascinating topic that actually bridges two completely different worlds: coordinate geometry and, get this, the power of a renewed mind. Yeah, we're diving into a lesson from the Academy Godly Learners series. It takes this strict, totally rule-based math concept of sequential transformations and literally links it to how we make step-by-step choices in our daily lives. It's such a cool way to look at math through a much wider lens. So let's just jump right in. The source material actually grounds this whole math lesson in a really well-known scripture. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Okay, let's dive into this. The curriculum uses this quote to make a super profound point. Think about it. Just like in our personal lives, real, genuine change, transformation, doesn't usually happen randomly, right? And it definitely doesn't happen all at once. It happens in deliberate, intentional steps. And in math, as we're going to see in a second, geometric change happens exactly the same way. All right, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, we have the power of transformation. Then we'll move into mastering the math toolkit, followed by step-by-step practice, your turn to try, and finally, education, morality, and peace. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the power of transformation, where we establish that change happens in steps. Before we start actually sliding points around a graph, we really need to understand why combining these movements even matters. Like, why do we care about moving a shape more than once? Well, the source text lays it out perfectly. Combining movements helps us break down incredibly complex problems. If you've ever watched a 3D animated movie, played a modern video game, or even looked at architectural blueprints for a skyscraper, guess what? You are looking at sequential transformations in action. Animators and engineers literally use these exact math principles to build things in digital space. But beyond the cool career applications, working with multiple transformations teaches us about sequence and cumulative effects. It basically trains your brain for careful step-by-step planning. Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering the Math Toolkit. Let's look at the actual rules of geometric movement. In math, you can't just move things wherever you feel like it. Here's our core definition. Sequential transformations mean performing multiple movements on a shape in a specific given sequence. We're talking sliding, which is called a translation, flipping, that's a reflection, or turning, a rotation. So the crucial point is this. Every single transformation follows very strict math rules, and honestly, above all else, they absolutely must be done in the exact order they are given. You mess up the sequence, you're going to completely mess up your final destination. It's really that simple. Okay, time for Section 3, step-by-step practice. We are putting this toolkit to work. Let's try breaking down some examples from the curriculum together. Example 1, we are going to translate and then reflect. We start with point A, just hanging out on our graph at coordinates 1, 2. First step, we translate, or slide it by the rule x plus 2, y plus 3. So we just add 2 to our x, add 3 to our y, which brings us to a quick pit stop at 3, 5. Second step, we take that brand new coordinate and reflect it right across the x-axis. Now flipping it across the horizontal x-axis just changes the sign of our y value, so that positive 5 drops straight down to a negative 5. And this brilliantly illustrates the total journey of point A. Over on the left, you see our starting coordinate at 1, 2. And on the right, after faithfully doing that translation and then the reflection in that exact order, we arrive at our final coordinate, A prime, at 3, negative 5. 1 point, 2 steps, a totally transformed location. Let's move to example 2 and see how this builds. This time, we're doing a reflection followed by a rotation. We'll start with point B at 4, negative 1. First up, reflect it over the vertical y-axis. That flips our x value sign, right? So the positive 4 becomes a negative 4. That leaves us parked midway at negative 4, negative 1. Now for the rotation part. We spin it 90 degrees counterclockwise. The rule here says we swap the x and y numbers and change the sign of our new first number. So negative 1 moves to the front and becomes a positive 1, and the negative 4 shifts to the back. Look at that transformation. Starting coordinate B was all the way at 4, negative 1. But because we strictly followed the sequence, reflecting, then rotating, we landed perfectly at our completely new final coordinate, B prime, at 1, negative 4. Actually, it's incredibly satisfying when you see it map out so cleanly like that. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the undeniable pattern you see when we lay it all out in a table. The first 2 rows are exactly what we just did, But check out that third row, example 3. We have point C starting at 0, 5. Its first move is a 180-degree rotation. The rule for that? Super easy, just flip both signs, taking it down to 0, -5. The second move is a translation by x plus 2, y plus 1. Add 2 to 0, you get 2. Add 1 to -5, you get -4. So the final destination is 2, -4. You see the pattern here? Follow the first rule to get your intermediate point, then apply the second rule to that exact new point to get your final answer.
All right, section 4, your turn to try. It is time for the homework challenge.
I've walked you through 3 of these, but honestly, you don't really learn it until you do it yourself. The explainer source has a specific homework challenge that demands you apply this exact step-by-step logic. Here are the first 3 questions. Notice how each one gives you a starting coordinate, a first transformation, and a second transformation. Question 1, slide point P, then flip it. 2, flip point Q, then spin it. 3, rotate point R, then slide it. Just remember the golden rule here. Take it one careful step at a time. In rounding out the homework, we have questions 4 and 5. 4 is just a double reflection, over the x, then over the y. But hold on, take a really close look at question 5. This time, you aren't just moving one lonely point. It's an entire triangle. That means you have 3 starting points. But hey, don't panic. The logic doesn't change. You just do the 90-degree rotation on all 3 points first, get your 3 new intermediate points, and then translate all 3 of them. Same exact rules, just a little more legwork.
Finally, we've reached section 5, education, morality, and peace. Let's look at the big picture.
Okay, let's zoom back out for a second. Why on earth is this curriculum teaching coordinate geometry right next to verses about a renewed mind? Well, the source material presents this specific foundational philosophy: education without biblical morality will hurt. Think about it in terms of what we just did. If you try to do a sequential transformation, but you ignore the math rules or do them out of order, your point ends up totally lost, right? The text is basically arguing that life works exactly the same way. Gaining all this intelligence and education without a solid foundation of moral rules to guide your choices, well, that ultimately leads to a pretty negative outcome or harm. In fact, the source material throws this really provocative question right at the students. What's the point of being smart and supposedly educated if you continue to make bad choices that hurt? Wow. That is a heavy question, meant to make you pause. You can have all the tools in the world. You can know exactly how to translate, reflect, and rotate your skills out there. But if the sequence of choices you make ends up damaging you or the people around you, what was the point? To answer that challenge, the lesson points back to Scripture, summarizing Romans 8, 6 through 7. It talks about this profound promise: peace of mind to everyone who keeps their minds spiritual. The curriculum notes that this is the ultimate goal. When you anchor your education in a spiritual, moral foundation, your final destination, your final coordinate on this journey, so to speak, is actual peace of mind. And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. We've seen how math requires strict adherence to rules, just like personal transformations require a renewed mind. So as you go tackle that math homework, I want to leave you with this final thought. Are you making the right step-by-step choices, not just on the graph paper, but in your daily life to secure your peace of mind? Really think about it. Keep learning, keep transforming, and I will catch you in the next explainer.